Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're going to get started. Hopefully you can all hear me. All right, let's begin. So welcome to the Core Web Vitals webinar with Taboola. I'm your host. I'm Evangeline Axiotis, Director of Publisher Account Management in the US, and I'm joined by Omri. I'll let Omri introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Omri Ariav. I am a product manager here at Taboola, located in our Tel Aviv office.
So a few housekeeping things. First, this webinar will be recorded, and it will be sent out afterwards. So stay tuned for that recording. I think next week it may be available. We do have a Q&A function, so please use the Q&A function at the middle of the Zoom at any time. It's anonymous throughout. If you have questions, we're going to be holding off until the end to answer questions, but we will be logging all of it and going through them. And we're also going to be doing some polls. So please use the polling function and answer those throughout. Okay, so here's the agenda. So Omri is going to go through an intro to Core Web Vitals. He's going to do a deep dive into the various metrics and Taboola's specific approach and optimization roadmap. And then I'm going to walk through the biggest changes for publishers. And then at the end, we'll do the Q&A. So let's start with the poll first. So if you could answer, how well informed do you feel at this moment about Core Web Vitals? And then we'll review the results. Results are coming in. Give it another minute or two. I think people are still joining. Okay, it looks like we have most of the results in. So as you can see here, only a few people answered above average or excellently. Most feel average or even below average. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Omri to intro Core Web Vitals and do the deep dive.
Thank you, Evangeline. Let's do it. You can click, please. So, Core Web Vitals, or this Google initiative, will help publishers understand whether they are not or do provide in the visitor a good user experience. And what Google did is taking Core Web Vitals, the metrics, we're going to soon explain what they are standing for, and they will function as an additional search ranking signals, part of the current page experience report, which you are most likely familiar from your Search Console. It will apply to all web pages, mobile, web, and desktop. And the three Core Vital metrics are currently focused on loading time, interactivity, and visual stability. And we believe that this update will have a positive effect on user experience across the open web and will increase and improve the overall user journey. Can you click, please? So let's start with, so let's do another poll. How would you rate your preparations for the update? Let's see what are our options. So how would you rate your preparations for the update? Excellent, above average, average, below average, or poor? Let's take a couple of seconds to answer this quick poll and see where do we stand. Okay, let's give it a couple more seconds. Let the results come in. And okay, so Most of you feel like they are doing great with their preparations. This is a good sign. And let's continue with our deck to get more information. So first of all, Google announced that initially the impact of core vitals on the search signals were supposed to be on May 1st, but Google pushed that to mid-June. And they will do the core vital release gradually. So it will take its full role over SEO only by the end of August. Google declared that contextual relevance will remain the strongest factor. And they also clearly indicated that they will see core vitals as a tiebreaker in case that we have two publishers showing the same relevant content. Then the publisher with the better core vital score will get some sort of a positive SEO impact over the publisher without a good core vitals score. So Google is signaling about how the rollout will look like. And if we try to image what is the Google SEO algorithm black box, so obviously you can see in the upper part the contextual relevant signals. So those signals will remain the strongest one, making sure that the content is relevant to the search keyword that the user is looking for. And then within the search signal for page experience, the core vitals are addition to the current page experience signals, which are mobile friendly, safe browsing, secure browsing, and no intrusive interstitial ads. So now Google is adding 3 core vital signal: visual stability, CLS, cumulative layout shift, and we'll explain what that does mean later, interactivity or first input delay, and loading or largest contentful paint. Obviously, in addition to that, there are always unknown Google signals, and there are from time to time Google algo change, which we don't know exactly what they are standing for, and you obviously can read about them on the SEO blogs. But if we try to locate core vitals, this is on a high level how it fits the overall Google SEO algorithm. Let's have a click. So going deep dive into the metrics. So the first metric is cumulative layout shift, CLS, that measures visual stability within the viewport. It's important to say that recently Google announced that they're going to change the way they are measuring those layout shifts, and they will be much more friendlier towards single page website and infinite scrolling usages. So basically, instead of measuring the layout shift throughout the entire page lifetime, Google is limiting it into different windows of time. So they will count only several layout shifts that happen within a capped window, or usually a 5-second window. So publishers should feel like an ease when it comes to the impact of CLS measurement over their web pages. So that's CLS. The second metric will be first input delay, FID, that measures how fast the page is responsive to the user first input, which is a click, either on a link or on a form or a field within the page. It looks like that this metric is too easy for publishers, and 95% of publishers are in the green areas. Also recently, Google hinted in their forum that they will change this metric to include not only just the first input and not just clicks, but that's FID. It's also important to say that Google said that total blocking time, which is how much the browser is occupied in rendering the website, is a proxy KPI to measure the first input delay. Basically meaning if you will keep your total blocking time low, the chances of causing delay will reduce. Next click. The third metrics is largest contentful paint, LCP, which measure the perceived load speed of the biggest paint in the page, usually the hero images, and that's the third core vital metric. So let's go into our third poll, very exciting. Which core web vital metric you are most focused on improving? Will it be first input delay, FID, that measures interactivity, largest contentful paint, LCP, that measures loading time, cumulative layout shift, CLS, that measures visual stability, or two or all of the above? So which core web vitals metric you are most focused on improving? Let's take a couple of seconds to vote, and we should see the result immediately. Let's give it 2-3 more seconds. Okay, results are coming in. So pretty much LCP and CLS are on the top, and at least one of you is focusing on two or all of the above metrics. So thank you very much. Let's move on. So if we try to understand about each metric, so first of all, Google indicated and said that they're going to assess each metric individually. So you can have a green score on FID and a green score on CLS, but if you are on the poor area on LCP, you may get an SEO impact. So you need to reach to the good area on all three metrics. And it doesn't matter if you have several URLs that are in the good metric, as long as the URL is getting into the good area, then there will be no SEO impact. So there is no internal contents between your different URL as long as they are in the green area. Obviously, each metric has a red area, which is poor, that needs improvement, a orange, yellow area of needs improvement, and we should all strive to be on the green area. Each metric with its own measurement unit, LCP in second, first input delay in millisecond, and CLS, which is a score of what size was moving and how much other element this element move. And again, for each metric, Google will assess it individually. And for each metric, you should get to the green area as you can. So how we are in Taboola preparing? First of all, we are investing significant time and resources preparing for the Core Web Vital update. And we are obviously adopting Google benchmark, which those are the metrics you see, and the page performance measurement tools, which is Page Speed Insight, Lighthouse, and we optimize the overall Taboola experience in line with the Core Web Vitals guidelines. It's also important to say that we are focusing, in addition to those three Core Web Vital metrics, we are also focusing on improving our impact on different Lighthouse or Page Speed Insight opportunities or diagnostics. Most significantly, making sure that our total blocking time is low enough and is not causing any long task when rendering Taboola on your web page. If we can have another click. So this is a high-level list of features that we develop to get ready for Core Web Vital. I will focus on a few, starting with lazy rendering, which is already live. And by applying lazy rendering, we are reducing the total blocking time, or then which stand for the how much resources Taboola is taking from the browser while rendering the content. So instead of loading, for example, all of the cards in the first batch on the feed, or preventing or from lazy load the entire Taboola unit, what we are doing in lazy rendering, we are making a full request for recommendation, but we are only rendering specific number of cards, reducing the resources that Taboola consume from the browser, and while rendering the remaining cards when the user is reaching a specific pixel threshold from the feed. So this is much better than having you lazy load Taboola completely and will result less or neutral revenue impact while preserving a good user experience according to the core vital metrics. So this is live lazy rendering, which is already live. Working with the CLS metric, first of all, we are already removed any excess animation from our ad unit. And we are also working on optimization to reserve space on our batch, on our feed batches to avoid layout shift. This is a feature that will come in July. And if you have concerns that Taboola is adding to your CLS score, you will be able to use this feature to minimize the layout shift that we are causing. Although again, we need to wait for the new CLS measurement to kick in to understand what is the situation, because again, Google made the new CLS measurement better for infinite scroll usages. We also serving images in WebP format, and we are working on another feature that will yield back to the browser during our rendering in order to, again, reduce the resources that Taboola is consuming when loading itself on your web pages. And if you have more question about those features, and if you have a question about the impact of those features, you are more than welcome to reach out to your account manager, and we'll be happy to address it in depth separately. So this is again a high level of features that we are taking to be ready for the core vital update. Another click. So let's give you some technical tips for to prepare. So first of all, you should begin your journey to prepare for core vitals by checking in on your search console. Under the page experience report, you will find core vitals. This will give you a list of URLs that have a poor score, and you can go and see their page speed insight report and perform a local lighthouse audit as well. This is a great place to start. And we need to remember that only core vital metric are the ones that are relevant for SEO. So while we encourage you to optimize your page load regardless of core vitals, if you have SEO concerns, you should focus on the 3 core vital metrics only, and I ignore for now the rest of the lighthouse report opportunities and diagnostics. We will also recommend you to prioritize mobile, because mobile devices are low resources compared to desktop. They are more occupied in resizing images and stand for slower internet connection than desktop devices. It's also important to tell you that it will take 28 days for optimization to reflect, as Google is using a field data. It's called CRUX, Chrome Real User Experience, that they are taking anonymous browsing data from users, and they are calculating the core vital metric score with a 28 days look back window. So you should be patient while conducting optimization. It will take time for them to reflect in the search console. For immediate verification, you can use the local lighthouse, which is located in Chrome DevTools. So with that, I will hand it over back to Evangeline to talk about the biggest changes for publishers.
Thanks, Omri. And I encourage you to ask questions in the Q&A. Okay, so let's go through some changes that publishers should be aware of and look out for. So Google Top Stories, this is a key organic traffic driver. This is the section that appears within Google search when Google detects that a search query is news-oriented. So previously, only AMP pages were eligible to appear in the mobile version of Top Stories. And moving forward, all content will be eligible. So with the Core Web Vitals update, AMP will no longer be necessary for stories to be featured. And publishers that currently use AMP will see no changes. So we know that user experience has always been a top priority for publishers. So this is not necessarily anything new, but what we're seeing is really the industry getting behind this. So Core Web Vitals is Google's initiative to provide guidance for signals that are essential to delivering a good user experience on the web. Images and videos will heavily influence page load. So this is what typically slows down the page speed or images, heavy images and videos. So we would encourage you to consider eliminating background images and serving images in the smallest size possible by converting to WebP format if you haven't already, and avoid any unnecessary layout shifts. Keep in mind that although above the fold images and slideshows or videos are a favorite for publishers, they do dramatically slow load times on mobile devices. We know that users have an affinity for video content, but videos tend to be very large. So the good news is that you can improve the user experience and still provide great video content. You can use a technique such as using an image placeholder for the video thumbnail. That should boost load times dramatically. Okay, so what are the effects on ads? So obviously balancing monetization efforts with user experience has always been top of mind, especially for us at Taboola. Long before Core Web Vitals, we've been working with our publisher partners on this. And this tends to be, consistently across the board, one of the top KPIs when measuring success for our partnerships. So keeping Core Web Vitals in mind, dynamic elements such as ads, they can have a negative impact on CLS, the visual stability, and on the user experience in general. So we recommend stop content from jumping by reserving the largest height possible for an ad, and also by partnering with your vendors like Taboola that are implementing various optimizations. So you saw Omri just went through our approach, specifically calling out lazy rendering, which I'll get into in the next slide. So obviously lazy loading will become more popular to improve page load and overall user experience. This can be used for any content that appears below the fold. Taboola implemented our own lazy rendering, which can take the place of lazy loading. So we recommend, since we've rolled out lazy rendering across the board and that is now live, to test removing, if you are lazy loading Taboola, removing that lazy load to see how our lazy rendering affects the page, because it should be able to save on page load while actually capturing more revenue than the traditional lazy load would. So it's ensuring that we have minimal impact on revenue. Talk to your Taboola account manager if you haven't already about our own lazy rendering solution, since that is live today. So Q&A. Let's run through and see if we have any questions. We encourage you to ask questions now. If you don't have any questions and you think of something later, reach out to your account manager. Let's see. Omri, do we have anything?
Yeah, I think we have some sent to me directly. So I will read them. So we have one question. Are you also looking at the advantage of newer image formats like AVIF or JPEG XL, which should offer a performance boost beyond the WebP format? So the answer is yes. So we started with deploying images in WebP format, which are much more optimized in size and speed loading than the regular PNG and JPG formats. We are aware of the advantages of the AVIF format, which is even better than WebP, and we are definitely will experiment and even deploy this by the end of this year. So this is for sure. A second question that I get is Core Vitals relevant for AMP, Accelerate Mobile Pages as well? So the answer is no. AMP is not showing up on page speed insight reports or Lighthouse. And AMP is obviously eligible for the lucrative Google placement. The thing is that with the Core Vital change, Google is now making regular desktop or mobile web pages eligible for the top carousel placement. So you can either use AMP or use a URL with a good Core Vital score. So that should motivate you to invest in Core Vitals, because you are no longer need to maintain an app version. And we know that for publisher, using app can be challenging. Let's see, Evangeline, do we have any other questions?
It looks like there's one about video. I'm not sure, but maybe it was in relation to the video, using the video thumbnail to save for page load. Do you want to take that one, Omri?
Well, in terms of Core Vitals, it's really depending on where you're going to load the video and which video player are you using. Because if you're using a video player that performs, let's say, RTB activity during the page load, it might cause a first input delay. And large video files might show up on the page speed insight report. Again, not directly related to Core Vitals. So it's really depend on which usages you are doing with video and how soon do you load the video player.
If there are more specific video questions, feel free to put them in the chat.
So I think I have another question sent to me directly. Most of my users enter my site from a mobile. Will improving the CLS, FID, and LCP metrics will improve the user experience and decrease the bounce rate? So the question is yes. Better user experience in the mobile web will improve the user funnel and the user journey, will result user going back to the search result and continue their path to consume more content. So yes, we can expect the bounce rate to drop when load faster.
So there's a follow-up, Omri, to that video question. So someone asked, can I still use autoplay video on the site? Will that impact our CLP?
I guess it means CLS.
Yeah.
So it really depends if the video is moving when loading in autoplay. So if, for example, the video is loading on one of the corners, like a slider head unit, you should use absolute CSS techniques to make sure that it's stable and not moving on the page or moving other div elements on your page. And if it's an in-stream, or let's say if it's an outstream, video that opens up within the text, then you may want to reserve a space for it, even in the cost of having a white space, because usually those outstream videos are like shifting the text below, and that may trigger a layout shift that can be accumulated to your CLS score. So you may want to consider to reserve a space for this video, which by Google will be a better user experience than just pushing the text down in the viewport. Another approach that you can do is do this outstream push outside the viewport, but that will impact your viewability. So it's a trade-off between those two approaches. I think we're done, right? Well, unless we have any more questions.
I don't see any other questions, but feel free to reach out to your account managers if you do have other questions, and we'll send out this recording. Great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining.